Nothing changed in the top 8. The rankings remain the same. Doesn't matter what happened this past weekend in college football. The Washington win over USC evidently did not mean enough to the committee to bump them up a spot or two. And now you have Ole Miss sitting at number 9, Penn State at number 10. And a lot of comments were made, too, that we'll dissect here to begin the show. But overall, were you surprised that the top 8 didn't move at all last night?
I'm surprised what's going on with Washington. And still with the Michigan love, and Washington's not getting the boost on the wins that they've had. Uh-huh. That's a bit of a surprise. Other surprises, in what world is Iowa a top 25 team?
There is no world.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Again, Fresno has won 17 of 18. Liberty's 9-0, but they put Iowa up there. I mean, it's just some of the stuff they do. It's like, guys, there's plenty of good football being played around the country and other schools, outside the big conferences as well. So Iowa is just hilarious being in the top 25.
I laughed at that one. How about Kansas getting moved up to number 16? The Kansas is not the 16th best team in the country.
Right.
Utah is number 18. LSU is now number 19 in the country.
That's a joke, too, right?
3 losses.
Yeah. If LSU is that high, USC still should be ranked. It's the same team.
Pretty much.
Great offense, great quarterback, can't stop anything. Mm-hmm. Same team, right?
Now, here's the thing, though. On that note, they did stick to their guns with the head-to-head stuff, which could come back to haunt them. I'll have more on that coming up here in a few minutes. But despite Alabama beating LSU this past weekend, they never got a bump. So they're sitting here still telling you that the head-to-head means more than anything else between Texas and Alabama, because they have Texas locked in at number 7, Alabama at number 8. I will bring this up, and I think you've mentioned it as well. Others have. The Texas win over Alabama is not the best win in the country. It's Washington beating Oregon. That's the best win in the country so far. And don't forget what happened, too. Milroe was yanked and did not play the following week against South Florida. And Nick Saban talked about how bad the team was, or how this wasn't a typical Nick Saban team or Alabama team. He didn't know what he was going to do at quarterback. And when Milroe played against Texas, that was not the same quarterback that we're seeing today. And he was awesome against LSU. So you need to file that one away on top of everything else, I believe. And then, some of the comments that came out as well last night. Reese Davis challenged Greg McElroy and his unsettling comment that he made. McElroy was very strongly opinionated last night, and he said that Alabama fans need to feel unsettled with where they're at right now in number 8 and not moving up after the LSU loss. Reese Davis goes, and he was going to say, I'm not so sure about that, and then it went in a different direction. On number 7, Texas, Kirk Herbstreit, quote, "No way Alabama gets in over Texas. No way Texas is left out if they win out."
Yeah. There you go.
There's no way?
Yeah, he's exactly right.
No,
Good
he's
job,
not.
Herbie. Yeah, he
no,
is.
He's not.
Yeah.
Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, if they win out, Texas and Oregon win out, Texas, are they automatically in over Oregon?
No, he's saying, okay, with that.
Texas scenario where they're not automatically in?
He's talking about Texas and Alabama there. He's talking about Texas and Alabama.
But he added there's no way if they win out, they're left out.
Because, there could be trouble for Oregon here as McElroy is planting the seed. I thought the whole thing was a put-on, because 24 hours prior to the TV show, McElroy tweeted his top 6, which was Michigan, Georgia, Florida State, Washington, Ohio State, Oregon. Oregon 6. Then he goes off on this tangent for 5 minutes, and the look on Herbstreit's face was just like, get me out of here. This guy is nuts. And he goes off on this tangent where apparently we've had the guy on the show. I didn't know he was a total fraud, meaning he didn't pay attention to the rest of Lubbock isn't a tough place to play. Salt Lake City isn't a tough place to play.
Okay.
Greg, do you watch college football?
When Greg McElroy, and I said last week, I like him as a TV personality. Well, I've done a 180 now.
Yeah.
He said last night, quote, "Utah is a very average football team." What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
How do you make that comment?
Yeah.
Who goes to Salt Lake and wins by 40? Nobody does that. Utah is okay, so again, find me another team in the country, in another conference, where somebody like Greg McElroy is going to say on national TV, they're very average. Do you think he would ever say that? Like if Ole Miss gets blasted this week by Georgia, is he going to say, well, Ole Miss is a very average football team? No chance on earth that that's going to happen. Will he call LSU a very average football team, by the way, ranked below Utah in the standings? That will not happen.
Yep.
It's kind of like the Monday Night Football show the other night. Everybody picked the Jets as a dog. Everybody. Why? Because they're in New York. They're not going to do that for another market. It's completely. So then he said that, and I'm like, so I had to rewind. Did he really did those words come out of his mouth? This guy's.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, he also played at Alabama, so it's a horrible look. The Alabama guy, ripping the Pac-12 and trying to prop up Alabama.
And I had to go back and take a bunch of the notes because he was all over the map killing Oregon. Then you're exactly right. He said. He mocked and ripped the Oregon win at Texas Tech when he said, I guess all you have to do is schedule a game against Texas Tech, struggle there, and we'll think that you're the sixth best team in the country. Within minutes, Joey Galloway on the same panel said, I want to credit, and he spoke to the depth and how good the Big 12 conference has been all year long. Well, which one is it? You can't be a deep conference and super good, in your opinion, and then have another guy mock Oregon's win on the road against Texas Tech. Can't have it.
Yep.
So it's just like, what am I watching, guys? Now the opinions on the show have become worse than the actual rankings by the committee.
Well said. Well said. Again, I thought it was a put-on because nothing changed with the rankings, and they're probably looking around thinking, how are we going to fill an hour then? Because nothing changed. I mean, and this is just, where is the West Coast representation? That's the other thing. And you could also argue they did it to themselves. No leadership, no alumni, no representation from the West Coast. And it's all Ohio. And even the Galloway and Herbstreit don't pimp for Ohio State, though, even though they went there. They're objective. But, hey, Greg, Alabama plays Tennessee, Chattanooga next week. How bad is that? You went to South Florida, led by 7 with a minute left. Your week non-conference. And will someone point out they're the only league that plays 8 conference games? And they get a pass on that, too, which no one brings it up. It's ridiculous. It's a huge advantage that they have. Every conference plays 9 league games, except the SEC, and they play 8, so they can play the cupcakes in the second most important week of the season coming up, where it's nonstop cupcakes next week for the SEC.
Sure. Now, Oregon, they have USC this week. They're at Arizona State, and then Oregon State, which is also highly ranked. And if they win out, they'll get Washington in theory again in the Pac-12 championship game. Is that good then? Or are we going to just mock USC and say that they're garbage and the Oregon State win really isn't that great because they're not an upper echelon team? And then Washington was overranked because they were here. Also, I don't get Florida State. The committee must love the FSU win over LSU from earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Because they still have that team at number 4. But now Washington has, again, the best win in the country over Oregon. And, again, USC here, not in the top 25. LSU is. But they have those 2 wins. What has Florida State done other than beat LSU? Don't give me the Clemson win. I don't care about that win. Yeah. Clemson stinks.
Yeah.
If you're going to tell me Utah is an average football team, well, Clemson's horrible then. And that's got to be the conversation.
Yeah.
For Michigan and Florida State to be ahead of Washington is laughable to me. To your point on the lack of the West Coast representation.
Yep. Well, in a span of 2 weeks, we have gone from Reese Davis saying there's a better chance the Pac-12 gets 2 in than left out to then the McElroy nonsense. So at least he's throwing it out there, and we could be set up with who's more deserving if it comes down to 12-1 Texas against 12-1 Oregon, or throw in the Alabama in there too. Mm-hmm. So now you have to be a little bit worried that at least you think, hey, how can someone think like that? Although he might be the only guy, because I think Herbstreit thinks they're the best team in the country, and I think a lot of people think Oregon's either the best team or the second best team in the country. What they did to dismantle Utah as well, but it's if they run the table, they should be safe. But then again, we all agreed for much of the year that this was the best conference. So if someone goes 12-1 out of this league, it'd be a crime if they don't get in.
I'll give you one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they're so strong, the committee is, on the head-to-head matchups. Ole Miss gets Georgia this week. Ole Miss is number 9. What if Ole Miss shocks the world and they beat Georgia? Based on what we've seen so far,
they have a problem.
right? You can't put Ole Miss over Alabama.
And Ole Miss won't be in the SEC title game.
Right. So you can't put Ole Miss over Alabama. Here's the thing. You would have to, based on what we've seen so far, they would only bump up every team below Georgia one spot, and they'd have to drop Georgia to number 9. And then have to go Bama 7, Ole Miss 8, Georgia. That's right.
Yeah.
That's what they've told us so far.
Yep.
But something tells me that won't take place.
Good point. The other one, too, Alabama should be penalized because they lost at home. You're not supposed to do that in college sports. Alabama got beat at home. Oregon should have won, but Oregon lost on the road by 3. That's also a big deal if it comes down to a tiebreaker and you're comparing resumes. Can't lose at home. Yeah. Can't give up 34 points at home either if you're Alabama.
All right, so the committee show, I know we get fired up for it every single year. I do like watching. It is a lot of fun. I mean, it gets the blood boiling more than anything else. A lot of these teams are playing each other, so some of them have losses obviously coming up.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.